Hello, and welcome to the National PTA Candidate Speeches and Queries. I am Teresa Williams, co-chair of the National PTA Elections Committee. In the recordings that follow, you will hear speeches and candidate query responses from candidates for National PTA President-elect. The candidates were recorded during the week of April 17th through the 19th. The video was edited to place candidates in a random order established prior to the recording. Candidates were recorded live. No candidate was given the questions in advance, and no candidate was given an opportunity to repeat their speech or query responses. In addition, candidates did not hear other candidates' speeches or query responses during the recording process. During the recording process, members of the election committee acted as timekeepers, and candidates were able to watch a timer as they spoke. Time started when the candidate began to speak, and when time expired, the parliamentarian signaled the candidates to stop speaking. To maintain our policy on impartiality, Mary Remsen, National PTA's parliamentarian, moderated the speeches and queries.
William Potts Daitma, you are a candidate for president-elect. You will speak for 5 minutes. You may begin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Bill Potts Daitma, and I'm honored to be the slated candidate for National PTA President-elect. I know the power of PTA. As a young person, Missouri PTA gave me a scholarship to be a teacher and made me the first person from my family to graduate college. Through my Missouri PTA leadership experiences, I was elected one of the earliest youth members on the National PTA Board of Directors. That experience changed my life. Inspired by PTA service, I became a middle school and high school teacher and then supervisor of health programs for the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. For the past 30 years, I've been a national school health leader through directing the Society of State Leaders of Health and Physical Education in Washington, D.C., leading children's programs at the Harvard School of Public Health in Boston, Massachusetts, and managing grant-making for children's health programs at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, Georgia. Today, I'm honored to serve my national professional nonprofit association, the Society for Public Health Education in Washington, D.C., as its interim CEO. SOPHE is the leading national health education organization in the United States. Throughout my career, I've continued to be an active volunteer. I served PTA on the National Board of Directors twice, through a term on NLRC, 6 other national committees, and numerous state and local committees. I've also served on the boards of 8 other national education and health organizations and 2 international organizations. I currently serve as president of the Foundation for the Advancement of Health Education, as well as other national boards. PTA leaders invested in me through mentoring and through their scholarship contributions. As your national president-elect, my major priorities will be mentoring leaders and strengthening National PTA's work toward its mission for future generations. As your president-elect and eventually your president, I will address each of the following values. I will ensure good governance by continuing to strengthen training for board members at the national and state levels, working in partnership with national staff, and leading meetings in ways that ensure every voice is heard and valued. I will ensure diversity in leadership and representation in decision-making by assuring that appointed leaders in the PTA come from the communities we represent, strengthening our outreach with Title I schools, reaching out to communities where we are underrepresented, and renewing our training focused on emerging leaders from minority communities. I will act with integrity, accountability, and compliance in financial operations. As your current National Secretary-Treasurer, I've served in an oversight role for our national financial resources and in a compliance role for the PTA system. I understand our vital fiduciary responsibility role and will ensure that any additional money received by National PTA will benefit the mission of the PTA system. I will practice effective communication by actively listening to leaders and members, reaching out to state and local leaders on issues of special importance, and ensuring that marginalized views are brought forward as we consider important issues. I will respect the unique roles of local, state, and national units by listening to your voices and including leaders and members as we consider ways to advance our association and its work, including bringing forward new ideas that have promise. I will honor and recognize the contributions of volunteer leaders. We're all volunteers. We all give our time freely to the association we love. That must be respected, and recognition is a visible way to show that respect. What brings all of us together? We're all parents, caregivers, and people who care deeply about children. All parents know the abject joy and abject terror of being responsible for our children's upbringing. We understand at the deepest places in our souls that nothing is more important than the health, safety, and education of our children. As a parent of 4 and grandparent of 2 and an active PTA member for decades, I understand the critical importance of a vital national PTA, strong state PTAs, and well-supported local units. In my career, I've given my life's work in service of issues important to the mission of PTA, and I would be honored to give back to the association I love as your national president-elect. Thank you for your service with PTA, wherever that may be. I would appreciate your vote and be honored to have it. And for youth members out there, this is what you look like after decades in PTA. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The candidate will answer 5 queries and have 75 seconds to respond to each. Here is your question. As an association, how do we now pivot from the pandemic to sustain the mission of the association? You may respond.
Thank you, Mary. So how do we pivot from the pandemic to address our mission? We need to continue to invest in leadership training. We need to continue to invest in systems that help our state and local units do their job well. We need to make sure that our state and local units have the resources that they need. We need to assure that the national PTA advocacy system is working for the benefit of our state and local units, and ensuring that we have our voice solid in Congress to make sure that we can not just get resources, but also support at the local level to help those decision makers and help others who care about children to do the right thing. We really need to think about continued resource development work. We've done a great job. National PTA staff have done a terrific job of bringing in grant funding for local units and grant funding for state units. We need to double down on that and work hard to continue to bring those resources in. And last but not least, we just need to listen to each other and help each other figure out ways that we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Here is your next query. What self-development have you done in the last 2 years to enhance your leadership ability? You may respond.
So self-development that I've done in the last 2 years, I've participated in numerous trainings with the board and with others on a variety of issues, especially diving deep into DEI issues so that we can better understand how we can support our state and local units and make sure that representation is throughout the system and not at any one level, not at national, state, or local alone. I've also done quite a bit of work on looking at professional development systems and thinking through, I've spent most of my career in health and education and done a lot of work in professional development with states around the country, and thinking through how we can build on the Thrive system to get the information out there, but also think about how we can get solid trainers out in the field so that people can do the skills building work that they need to do in order to advance the association's mission. Thrive and other such tools are great for information, but we got to do skills building as well. And those are things that I've been looking into. Thank you.
Thank you. Your next query. How do you deal with contentious issues? You may respond.
So contentious issues, we've all certainly been dealing with contentious issues over the last several years, especially over the last decade. And, it strikes me that we just really have to listen to each other. PTA is a large tent, and at its best, PTA helps to be a catalyst for those voices, to help people talk with each other and understand, each other's points of view and learn from each other. And we've really got to be careful in our listening. We've got to dig deep for the nuggets that people are trying to share with us about how to move forward. We've got to think together about a lot of big issues that are affecting not just PTA, but other nonprofit associations in the work that we do for children's health and education. A lot of this comes down to compassion, listening to each other, remembering that we're all in this for the same mission, and trying to focus on moving forward and looking back only when it illustrates to us things that we might be able to improve. So I think all of those things are important in terms of helping to heal the divisions. Thank you.
Thank you. What kind of leadership style do you have, and why is that a good fit for PTA? You may respond.
The type of leadership style I aspire to is inclusive. I think it's very important to have all the voices at the table. I think representation is super important. It's just critical to make sure that all of the various voices are heard. I facilitate meetings in ways that I ensure that every voice is heard. If it feels like a contentious issue, then I'll go around the room and ask each person to share their opinion so that we make sure that every voice is heard. And I think it's just critically important to ensure that an inclusive environment, that an honest, respectful, trustful environment is created. I think trust is the coin of the realm when you start thinking about nonprofit associations. If trust isn't there, then boards will be dysfunctional, units will be dysfunctional. The corrosion is everywhere without trust. And I think that trust begins with being inclusive, listening to people, making sure their voice is heard, and making sure that their voice is considered on important issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Your last query. When you become president in 3 years, what are your goals for the association? You may respond.
As I think about goals for the association during the time that I might be president, I really think building our leadership cadre and ensuring that state and local leaders have the training that they need and the information that they need in order to do a good job is just critical. I think any nonprofit association thrives on leadership, and it's only as good as the leadership that is in that association. I think we've just got to think carefully about how we can continue to deepen leadership training, how we can do mentoring for volunteer leaders at the state level, how we can develop trainers at the state level that can work with local levels, how we can get out to states that may not have received as much training in the past, making sure that we reach out to states that have lower membership. The petite states need an awful lot of resources, and we just need to make sure that we've got that there for them. But I think at the end of the day, everything comes down to leadership. If we have good leaders, we'll have a great association. And I think building that system is vitally important, and that would be my goal. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us this evening. Donald Dunn, you are a candidate for president-elect. You will speak for 5 minutes. You may begin.
Hello, I'm Donald Dunn, and I'm seeking the office of president-elect. Let me give you a brief background on my PTA bio. Like many of you, I joined the PTA for our daughter who was in the elementary school. And after that, I became the president of the school. And then I advanced all the way up to the national board. I have been a council president. I have been a state president. And at the state level, I also was a Fed Affairs chair. I have also gone to serve as a board of director at National PTA for 2 terms. And then most recently, I was the Secretary Treasurer. There are 3 items that stand out in my PTA career that I really have a lot of pride in. First, North Carolina was the host of the National Convention in Charlotte. That was one of the events that many people have talked about as one of the most exciting conventions we've ever had. The next item that stands out in my PTA experience and journey has been in 2017, I was selected to go on a Life Touch Memory mission trip. We went to Dominican Republic with some of our 16 other colleagues, and we built schools in a remote area village in the Dominican Republic. That experience will last forever in my life because to see those people and the combination of what we have done to make their life experience better. The third item that really stand out, as the Secretary Treasurer, you're also over the endowment fund. And in our last time in office, we have advanced money to update our national standards. And those are the standards that we're using currently that many people are looking at and using in different parts of the country. So please look at the national standards. We're excited that we were the driving force behind that. Now, let's get what I'm really running. It's for you. I want to thank each and every one of you for what you do on a daily basis to make the difference in our schools. The pandemic took our legs from under us, and a lot of us, we've lost members. But there's 2 things that we will get back to if you elect me as president-elect. Number one, and they're both beginning with M, mission. We will always focus on our mission. As we go over the next 6 to 7 years, it's going to be critical that our mission drives us. And at the national level, we will always use the mission to make our decisions and the impact that it will have on each and every one of us. The other end, members, you're so critical to what we do. Yeah, some of you don't get an opportunity to go to Alexandria to visit the national headquarters, but I want to come to you. There's a couple items that I would like to do in my time in office from the standpoint of being in contact. So you can reach out to us because that is so important that you have a way to let us know your feelings and thoughts on how we operate and the impact that we have. Number one, on a weekly basis through Zoom, or if I'm fortunate enough to be in person, I like to come to either a school or a district or a council or even a state meeting and just see and get direct feedback. I think it's so critical that we hear from you and help us make our decisions. And not only will I be joining your meeting, I will actually join your unit. Don't tell my wife because that would be my lunch money for the week. The other way I like to do for the fathers or the male role models in First Fridays will be an opportunity for us as fathers to do a webinar so we can start building cohesiveness because it's so important that we all somehow connect and be part of the big picture. Then on a quarterly basis, I would like to interact with the broader membership from the standpoint of being able to get your feedback to see where we are. So with that cooperation, we're worried about the pandemic. The question is not if, but when the next crisis or pandemic. Public education constantly is under attack. And the only way that we're going to move forward and be around for another 125 years as we've done most recently is that we work together. I need your vote. I will be your voice on the national level, not only inside the PTA as well as outside. My name is Dunn, and I really appreciate your input and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. The candidate will answer 5 queries and have 75 seconds to respond to each. Here is your question. As an association, how do we now pivot from the pandemic to sustain the mission of the association? You may respond.
It is critical. The pandemic knocked our legs from under us. We need to all join arms, hands, and connect with each other. We need to remember to keep our purpose and our mission focused, and that we're able to make the difference as one team together, because we've come too far to be distracted, and we need to focus on what it takes to move our mission and our people and our units forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Here's your next query. What self-development have you done in the last 2 years to enhance your leadership ability? You may respond.
Recently, I've just finished going to Georgetown Nonprofit Executive Director program. That there were 75 of us in the class and from all across the country. And we all learned about what it takes to drive a nonprofit. We started at the very basic point of it, as far as being a board member. We talked about finance. We talked about recruiting members. So in the last 2 years, and we're still in contact now. We network with each other and we share information, and we are using each other as consultants. So, and that has put us on the path. And I think that has really created a foundation for me to be the president-elect.
Thank you. Your next query. How do you deal with contentious issues? You may respond.
Dealing with contentious issues, I need to understand where the other person or persons are coming from, because we need to be on one accord. And if there's a happy medium that we can strike, I will always do that. But then we have to keep in mind and focus solely on our mission and our members. And I will always be a strong advocate for those two entities, our mission and our memory and our members. And it's so important that we find a happy medium. I'm not always going to get my way, and the other person's not always going to get their way. If they get a little, I get a little, we both will be happy and be able to move forward. But we will not sacrifice. We will not sacrifice our mission or our members for no reason. Thank you.
Thank you. What kind of leadership style do you have, and why is that a good fit for PTA? You may respond.
My leadership style is participatory from the standpoint that I need your input. That's why I will set up that communication network that I talked about earlier. It is so important that I understand where you're coming from and what you need. As a leader, it's so important that we help people reach their full potential, that we're able to meet them where they are to get them where we want them to be. I'm open to criticism. I'm open to feedback, but it's so important that we have open communication, because that way we can know where each and every one is. And what drives PTA, since we're so diverse across the board, is that we're able to reach out to each other and have a frank conversation about what we need to get to the new level that we want to go to. So my management style is open. It's encouraging people and even motivating people to be better than what they are, because we all have potential in all of us have potential. We just need to help people reach it. Thank you.
Thank you. Your last query. When you become president in 3 years, what are your goals for the association? You may respond.
My goals are very simple: to be better than what we were when I took over the day I became president. I want to create an avenue that members throughout the country feel comfortable enough and confident enough in us as an organization that will be around for another 123, 125 years, that they'll be able to come to us at the national level and say, we have this issue. What can you do to help us? And we want to reach it back out to them. I want to develop a source of funding that we don't have to depend solely on membership, that we develop relationships both inside and outside our organization, that we're able to make a huge difference in each community. And at the end of the 3 years of my presidency, I want people to say we're better off than what we were the day that Donald became president, and that the hope of tomorrow is not wasted, because I volunteer in several schools, and the dealing with the students as well as the educators, it's so important that we continue to give them hope and potential, and that they are where we need to help them be better than what they are. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us this evening.